Welcome back to Polybridge 2. This time I'm going to try and go through everything that I did on World 4, and hopefully I can get this done before I have to go to bed. For whatever it's worth, I'm recording this on the evening of August 6th, however, I don't know when I'm going to have time to edit and upload. Let's get into this and get going. So this is the first level of World 4, and it's really not that difficult. As you can see, I'm about $20,000 under budget, even though I've used steel and some other things. Fairly simple 3-span bridge. One of the spans is hydraulically lifted so that it can be out of the way of the ship. So let's just do this. I don't believe I did this one any other way, so I'm not going to bother to look, and we'll just go to the next level. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. Clearly, with only $10,000 worth of budget, you had to cut some things very low. And I don't know, was it kind of interesting? Yeah. But was it really, at the end of the day, really very interesting? Not really. I'll just tell you that this dune buggy goes off here and goes below, then jumps over. This dune buggy jumps off here, jumps off this ramp, and goes to its flag. It's not actually that complicated. Just, you have to tweak all the angles for all the everything to make it work. And of course you can see I had to do a lot of wooden diamonds just to deal with the stresses, even reinforced road down here. Still comes in under $8,000, 20% under budget. And let's just run it and see what happens. A challenge because of the budget and because of all the tweaking, but not anything really in terms of learning, I'm afraid. And let's just take a look. Yeah, I think I'll go ahead and be the jerk and say, yeah, I really nailed this level. I nailed it like I nailed your mom. Kind of an interesting challenge a little bit. The big thing here is that you have to collect this checkpoint, and so you can't do what I've done here and just build a no hydraulics bridge that just goes over the ships, although this will definitely get both the cars over no problem, and I'll just go ahead and run it and show you. So the truck is much heavier than the car. If the truck made it, the car's definitely going to make it. And yeah, let's go ahead and load up. So yeah, no hydraulics, also no checkpoint. I guess it doesn't really matter. They're so close in budget. I guess the one that's slightly cheaper and slightly lower stress. You know, a lot of under support down here. Some cable. Probably that could be rope. I could make this a little cheaper with rope, but eh. This is kind of interesting. A lot of weird reinforcement going on right here. And then this tower that allows this hydraulic to pull things up is cable stayed back to this anchor. So, yeah, kind of interesting, all told, I guess. Also, you can see that I don't extend this hydraulic all the way down here. Instead, I use a rope. So, yeah. I think the big challenge here was this budget. You had to do it under 50,000, which for a relatively long span and with hydraulics is a bit of a challenge. So yeah, I did get just under the budget, and we'll see me getting just barely under the budget again in another level. But yep, I did get under, and the bridge does work. And only 82% stress, so happy with that. Think I did well, and yeah, works. I am going to do one thing, just for a giggle. And I don't know if I did this before or not, but let's just... I can tell you for certain. That is absolutely going to be fine as a rope. So we'll use rope there and save ourselves a little bit. And the other thing I'm kind of curious about is, what about this one? Can this be rope? It's going a little yellow, but not bad. The big test, I guess, will be when the span comes up. Okay. I could maybe replace that cable with rope too, just to see, but honestly, I don't care that much. So, let's go on. Oh yeah, no, this is a really fun one. So, here's what happens. First the limo goes, and he has to get to his flag down below. Then the Model T goes, and he has to get to his flag above. The obvious thing here is that you sort of have a secondary bridge that starts high, lets the limo through underneath, and then comes down. But the trick is, in the coming down, how do you not break this upper bridge? There's a lot going on here, and I'll delete some things just so you can see what's going on. We'll start with the steel pieces here, and then we'll even delete part of the bridge. Okay, so when the limo comes across here, it strikes the very top corner of the windshield, strikes this trigger and pulls these ropes. These ropes in turn pull this leg to the right, and it kicks the leg out from under this section of bridge, and the bridge falls, and this spring and this rope keep that bridge from hitting too hard. And now if we go back, this steel leg, composed of that and that, actually hard stops the bridge, because the spring won't really hard stop it and the weight of the Model T would push the bridge down. But with this hard stop steel leg, you actually prevent it from going down too far. So let me show you how this runs, and then we'll go to some of the more interesting variations. So you can see that got pretty red on this piece of road. And also that it doesn't quite get all the way down, but it eventually does work, even if it does overcorrect just a tiny bit right down around there. So, 99.3% stress sucks. 17 out of 23, not bad. Let's look at some other ways you could do this. I want to explain why I say correct by design. So, this is kind of correct by coincidence, I guess. You know, you kind of have to hack it and it kind of doesn't hit at the right place. You're not really controlling things very precisely. So I felt it would be better to do something, you know, works pretty well, 80% stress and 16K. Basically, I just made this bridge longer. It's the same trigger mechanism right here, kicking the leg out from under the bridge. And now I've used 2 springs. I think, yeah, one of these is pre-stressed to just let this down a little bit easier, but we still have the same kind of problem where the control of this bridge is not super precise, and, you know, it just... You'll see when the Model T gets onto this bridge, it sinks quite a bit under the weight of the Model T in spite of the springs. So again, does work, but I don't know, man, it still didn't sit right with me. I wanted more control and more precise movement of the pieces. So, the first one, correct by design, dead on the budget, 81% stress, and this one's weird, but I hope you'll like it. Okay, so this one, instead of a leg being kicked out from under the secondary bridge up here, what's happening here is as the limo drives under this piece of road, it pushes this piece of road upward, which allows slack on this cable to translate over here, and the slack lowers this bridge downward, and eventually this piece of cable, which is sized very exactly, only allows the bridge to go down to exactly where it should be, and no farther, even if there's extra slack on this rope. So this one I felt like I'm controlling all the pieces exactly where they should be. I'm lowering the bridge slowly, only when it needs to happen after the limo has gotten under here, and I'm lowering it to the exact point it should be, and then I'm stopping it dead with this piece of cable. So watch how this works. So you can see the limo stops there. Look at that. Nice seam right there. And of course, I dickered around with things a little bit to get exactly 23,000, so exactly on budget and 81% stress. I'm much happier with this solution. I think it's a much better solution, and it does things in a much better way. So yeah, now let's move along to the next level. Triple-decker drawbridge. Now, this one is interesting in a lot of ways, but basically, the biggest thing I want to say about this is, first of all, to get the bus across, it's relatively heavy at 10 polygrams, but you can just build a conventional arched bridge with some steel undersupports and completely take the bus and the top bridge out of the equation by simply going over top of the ship. Then you can forget about everything you've done up here and concentrate on what's down here. Also, these hydraulics and these parts of this bridge are called curly mode because they sort of curl backwards like fingers curling into a fist. And I'll show you what that looks like. For the record, of course, though this does work, it is pretty far over budget, but I think it's worth showing just as sort of a first cut at what is a good way to start things off and understand how you could then build a cheaper bridge that also worked. Obviously, there's a lot of cable staying going on here, but that's okay, no big deal. It's just because you have an island down here to support stuff, but you don't have anything down here, so you end up making a little support down here with cable stays. So you can see those curl, like fingers curling. Likewise here, and this is close, but it does pass. And then it's just barely strong enough for everything to get across. This gets pretty red up here, that gets kind of red here. So, you know, 90% stress. No big deal. Way over budget. That kind of sucks. Interesting design, but probably uses too many hydraulics, way more than it needs to, and, of course, a lot more cable than it needs to. So let's see what we can do about reducing the number of hydraulics. I guess let's take barely works under budget. There's a lot less cable in this one, but it's still kind of a mess and it still uses too many hydraulics. This is under budget, so maybe you want to see that it actually works, so I'll go ahead and run it for you. A lot of stuff going orange and red. Guessing that's a 99% stress. 96.6, okay, so sure, works, but, and under budget, but, and a high stress. Let's see what we can do about that. So yeah, we'll load up the really good one, $69K, nice. And it's actually 71% stress, but I won't tell if you won't. So, you can see that I've used a lot of like wooden diamonds here to replace steel. Again, I've said this before, but it's worth noting that because wood is 180 per meter versus steel at 450, wood is less than half the cost of steel. So even if you're replacing one piece of steel with two pieces of wood, you're still coming out ahead on the budget. I also used wooden rope down here instead of actual cable because you just didn't need cable strength. Put some rope here instead of cable because you didn't really need hefty strength, and then only one piece of cable that just barely misses the bottom of the ship there. But the really interesting thing going on here is that you can see there are only two hydraulics, one there and one there. And the way that I managed to pull up both bridges is that I have linkages down here. There's two things in here. There's a diamond and there's just a straight piece of wood. So the straight piece of wood hangs out with these two and allows this hydraulic to pull up both of those pieces of road. Meanwhile, the diamond is on this side and works with this hydraulic and these ropes and this post in order to pull all this stuff up high enough to just barely clear the ship. I'm probably over-explaining. Why don't I just run it so you can see? Definitely yellow-orange over here, and some orange here as well. But all in all, 69K, 71% stress. I'm actually quite happy with this. It was a bit of a challenging thing to do, but I'm quite proud of the way that I managed to get everything working and minimize the budget. So let's move along. Oh yeah, so you can see down here that there are only 2 roads left. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 roads on the map. 9 roads here plus 2 here is 11. They only give you 11 roads for this entire span, which is not nearly enough to do the whole entire span. So what I did, this is pretty obvious, I think everyone else did it too, I basically figured out this part right here. This road, this gap with this down angle, and this road. That is sort of your unit of repeating build. So you can build that over and over and over again, and that's exactly what I did. I just copied and pasted this all the way across. And because the dune buggy can always get its front wheels off here and onto the next one, off here onto the next one, off here onto the next one, the dune buggy will make it all the way across in spite of the gaps. There's enough vertical fall between these two, and the dune buggy is able to maintain its speed on this gentle slope. As for the construction of this truss that holds things up, it's not exactly pretty. I did it sort of, I'm not sure what the right word is. Haphazard is not right, because it's not haphazard. I understood what I was doing with each step, but improvised might be a good word. It's an improvised truss that doesn't follow any particular pattern. It's just did whatever needed to be done at each step to support the bridge entirely. And let's run this so you can actually see that it works. So I'm actually pretty proud of that, because maximum stress 63, I did it with 9 roads instead of the 11 provided, and although the bridge is shaky, it's true, you can see the max stress wasn't high. Let's look at gallery. I did see one gallery thing that was really cool that I really liked. Oh, never mind, that's Dangley Road, not that one. Yeah, this one. So this guy did what I did, except he used springs, which is fine. More expensive than, you know, just steel. The other thing, though, is that he did a very regular, very predictable kind of truss here. I like that. He's got a very, I guess you could call it mathematically provably correct truss here that supports everything the way it should. Nice. I like that. It's very aesthetically pleasing and pleases my engineer senses. Yeah, this one. So, clearly, the challenge on this one is your budget is only $14,000. So even if you're as clever as you can be, and this is pretty frickin' clever right here, I'm still $300 over budget. So let's just run this and show that it works at $300 over budget. This is already yellow, and now it's turning orange and red, and then this is turning orange and red. So yeah, it does work, but that's probably at least 80%. Well, 71% stress. Okay, not bad. 71% stress is great, and lovely minimalism there for sure, but still $300 over budget. So what do you do to fix it? So we'll take the tweaked one, where I just made these arches lower. And I'll show you this works too. One thing it did say was, note the slight asymmetry at the foundation. See how this one goes a little bit lower and this one is a little bit higher in terms of where they cross the edge of the foundation here. That makes it a little bit more challenging. You can't necessarily do it perfectly bisymmetrical. You have to tweak things just a little bit down here. Very orange all the way through that arch. The whole arch goes orange. But it does work. And 74%, which is, you know, is fine. And then I tried to do a tension bridge, just for a giggle, just because I was curious if a tension or banana bridge would do it. Turns out that although you can make a banana bridge work, it is way the fuck over budget. You can see it's almost $19,000 on a $14,000 budget. Alright, enough said. Let's move along. Yeah, this one. Boy. The theory here is that you have to get this car to jump perfectly to get through this gap, and then you have to somehow catch it and get it underneath this platform and onto the flag. So it's a lot of tweaking. Just a lot of tweaking. And then you have to spring everything over here to catch the car properly. I believe this was my first cut at it. Also, you can see there's no roads left. I think you only get 8 roads. 3, 4, 5, 6... Yeah, you only get 8 roads. So you can't really build a road all the way up and over, which is sort of the obvious and easy way. Let's just run this so you can see it does work. I'm clearly using the mountain there to catch the car so that I don't have to have a really strong catch bridge down here. Now let's go back and look at another way you could do it. I did it with 7 roads, but with 90% stress. So you can see the catch platform over here is 2 reinforced roads and a bunch of springs, and some rope and some wooden supports underneath. Let's check this out. I love that little bounce where it kind of just bounces it a little bit over there. It did take a lot of tweaking to make that work. And then I tried to get, I was under budget here, but I tried to get it with just a little bit less budget, I think. And after hours of tweaking, I managed to knock a whole $300 off the cost. Well, $350. So yeah, there you go. Just simplified things down a little bit down here. And again, only using, no, actually, this time I used all the roads, but I put more roads over here to get him to have like a smoother jump through. A little bit sloppy with that endo that he does, but yeah, I'll take it. And then I went back and actually gave myself an unlimited budget and just tried to do this with what I considered a reasonable budget. And then here's what you can do with a reasonable budget. You can kind of make roads all the way up and over, and there are some little subtleties here, like these two not being connected directly, some cable stayage, some other stuff. I'll just run this. Alright, let's move along. Okay, this one, I'm not afraid to admit it. When I first looked at this, I had no fucking idea. How could you possibly pull this off? You only get 4 roads. You can see I've got 4 roads on it and there's nothing left. And this span is way more than 4 roads. So my first take on this is what you see here. I was trying to use a parallel bar, 4-bar linkage with really long bars to like swing it up and over, with the theory being if these bars were really long, then the arc would be shallow enough. And of course, I'm using springs to sort of pull it over. And I'm using a dirty trick here where I put a little piece of steel here behind this solid thing, and then rope goes through solids. So this is like a ghetto kind of anchor to anchor the springs against, even though there's really no kind of anchors anywhere in this level. Like, you can see no red squares anywhere, so you have nothing to anchor to. So that's another part of the challenge. And so I'll show you that this does work, although as you can see, it is way the fuck over budget. And it breaks too. But hey, it does get across. After I had solved it this way, I went and looked in the gallery and saw other people's designs for this and saw that they just used, you know, just a bridge that just tips over. And 409 Tipping Tower, they're trying to give you a hint with the name of the level here. That's a nice one. I like that. I did my own version of this one, sort of, and I'll show you. So yeah, this was my stolen idea. And basically just have a platform that just, essentially when the bus gets high enough up here, it just overbalances the center of gravity and sends the whole thing tipping this way. And then again, I've done that sneaky trick where I put a solid piece behind some solid barrier, in this case this big rock. To nerf budget, I used wooden rope along here, and then the wooden rope eventually goes down here to this spring, which eventually will sort of stop this from hitting this side too hard. It'll just let the bus off gently, and the bridge will not break before the bus hits the flag. This spring does pull the bridge back, and it will break when it goes all the way back, and I'll show you that. Let me just show you how the whole thing works. So you can see, yeah, flag just touches the bus milliseconds before the whole bridge smashes on the way back. Let's see if we can see it over here in the replay. Yeah, so the replay cuts off right before the whole bridge falls down and smashes. So yeah, that was a tough level. I'm not afraid to say it. I struggled super hard. I couldn't figure out how you could possibly do it. I finally did do it with my parallel bar linkage thing, but man, that was tough. That was probably the second toughest level in all of World 4 for me, just because I could not wrap my head around how to do it. I think they were feeling sorry for people after the previous level, so they just decided to do an easy one. This is just a very standard arch bridge. I put extra reinforcement over the top in the form of steel, and then just a single hydraulic just moves it down here when the bus gets over here. Pretty elementary, and frankly, at this point in World 4, it's probably a little bit of an easy one to deal with people's frustration after that last ridiculous level. There you go. I did economize a little bit, knocked about 1,500. Same thing, really. This level. This fucking level, dude. Huge long span. Really, really long. I don't even want to count how many roads there are here. This is probably a 40-meter span, would be my guess. Probably 20 roads here. You can pause the video and count them if you care. And a 14-polygram articulated bus. This was such a bitch. So, like, obviously you can do sort of an obvious thing like this, right? And you can even economize a little bit here and there. And this does work, and I'll show you it does work. See, these are already orange. They go red. Red like a salmon down there. Okay. It works, but oh my god, 15,000 over budget. 34% over budget. How the fuck are you gonna make this cheap enough to actually be under budget? Well, there's some obvious things, right? Cables are expensive. That cable alone is $5,000. So we'll make the obvious tweaks to it, right? But we're still slightly, even with the obvious tweaks, we're still slightly over budget. And there's almost nothing you can do here. Every piece here has to be there. So I'll show you this works too. The rope goes definitely red. Maybe not quite that salmon cherry red that we were seeing before, but it's red, no doubt about it. %89 stress. So let's go ahead and load the final tweakage. I had to use wood pillars to get rid of the rope, and only came in very slightly under budget. This was super tough. So you can see I used like super diamonds here. These 4 members down here are a diamond, and then there's another diamond right there, and then another one there. And they're all sort of stacked up on each other sideways, right foot on left shoulder. So yeah, that's how I finally did this one. And you can see I had to use a diamond down here because this member was breaking, so I had to double up that one. And then put all these wooden triangular feet down here and wooden rope everything to keep it from falling off. And then this had to be a diamond too, because that was dying from stress. Ugh. And these had to be diamonds. I had to diamond these because these were breaking from the stress. Jeez, this was tough, man. This was a tough level. This, I'm going to argue, is the toughest level in World 4 just because the budget is so brutal and the span is so long. It requires so much material, and you don't have steel. So you can't even, you know... I guess they do give you unlimited roads. I could have made some of this stuff road and it would have been a little stronger in compression. But road is 200 per meter versus wood at 180. If you use road in any of this instead of wood, maybe I could have replaced some of the diamonds. Let me show you this works, then we'll try replacing some of the diamonds with road and see what happens. I tried to get the stress as even on both sides of this as I could. I mostly succeeded. Same deal over here. So it does work, it's under budget, and it's 96% stress, and it took me an hour of like trying different things to see if I could make it work. Let's go ahead and... I'm not entirely sure that one piece of road is going to be long enough. I'm sure one piece of road is going to be long enough here, so let's delete this. Do road. And that's a win because one road is cheaper than 2 woods. I don't want to put road up here yet because it's heavy. It'll be heavier than wood. Well, I don't know, with 0.25 polygram joints, that's another half polygram right there. Maybe not. Maybe road would actually be cheaper, but let's just see if a piece of road will fit up here. Oh, it will. So let's not go for broke. Let's try this and see what happens. See, that road's already stressed. That road's already stressed. This, honestly, is not right. That needs to be more of an convex curve. Oh, yeah. And it doesn't hold up anyway. So maybe that will hold. We'll see. Nope. You can't even economize by using road, because road can't handle the compression stress. You have to use wooden diamonds. Brutal level. Possibly the hardest level in World 4. Because it's such a long span, there's so much material involved in creating it. And the budget is just punishingly awful. Alright, let's move along. Trailblazer. The basic deal here is that this tow truck has to go over, get his checkpoint. Then the hydraulic phases go. Then this dune buggy has to get up to his flag up here. And then the tow truck turns around and goes back. The budget is not large, but then the bridge is not very a long span either. My choice for how to do this was simply this much of the bridge here would hydraulic down and lock up here. And then a little bridge up here, a little cat flap-like thing, would hydraulic down to the point where when the dune buggy jumped off this point here, it would manage to hit this and then get the flag. The dune buggy goes pretty fast, 15 meters per second, so that's a big pain in the ass. He's going way, way, way too fast, and if you're not careful about how you set up this bridge, he'll jump directly over the flag instead of getting the flag, and he almost does that in this one. I probably could have set up some kind of linkage mechanism that would run both the bridges from a single hydraulic, but I just didn't feel like it. This was easy enough. And it was just under budget. And I think the stress was fairly low. No, actually it was quite high. So I think when the dune buggy hits that little piece of bridge down here, that little piece of bridge down there gets stressed out pretty hefty, just from the impact of the dune buggy. Anyway, we'll just move on to the next one. Diagonal bridge. This is... I think this is a really cool level, and I'll tell you why. Because it shows the strength of steel truss. Look at this huge long span of steel truss here. Would you ever think... And it's normal road. It's not even reinforced road. Reinforced road is orange. This is just normal road, and all the strength of this road, not just when the cars are going up and down, but also when these hydraulics are pulling the whole span upward to get above the big blimp. It's all due to this relatively small steel truss. This shows the strength of steel brilliantly. And also you can see we've got the steel double diamond over here, just holding everything up. Only thing that's a little bit interesting, there's a little ramp right here, composed of, you know, that piece of road and that piece of wood. And when the hydraulic phase goes to pull the middle bridge up, these joints actually let go and the whole ramp falls away downward, and we'll see that when we run it. But that's how this guy, the blue car, manages to get down here. This ramp falls away after the red car uses it to jump up and over here. Look at that, man. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 roads. Steel truss holding pretty much all the force on an 8-span long. Each of those is 2 meters. That's a 16-meter bridge. Oh. It's like 50 feet long. Oh, and 69K. Nice. Awesome. The strength of steel is just incredible. I actually think this is, in my opinion, the most fun level in World 4. Why? You get almost all the materials. You get especially the good ones like cable and steel. You get a very reasonable budget of $61,000, but you still get a challenge because this is 21 polygrams. This is 21 polygrams as well. That's 42 polygrams, and they go at the same time. So you've got to build a 41 polygram capable bridge. And of course you could do an arch up and over, and certainly that would probably be cheaper than what I did. I bet there's a bunch of solutions like that in the gallery. I had cable, I had multiple anchor points here, and I just did a very symmetrical, very, in my opinion, very clean looking tension type bridge with a little cable stayed support in the center that comes up to this cool spider looking, or maybe fox ear looking thing right here. And this handles these 42 polygrams worth of weight with flying color. Doesn't even break a sweat. No movement, no sway, no wiggle. Solid as a frickin' rock. A great challenge for World 4, you know, worthy of a World 4 level. Really like that one. Maybe the most fun level in World 4. Oh boy. Yeah. So you can see there's 0 roads available down here. You only have 4 roads total, and you've got to get everybody across. But the good news is that they go in stages. First, the car goes, and he gets to his turnaround point and stops. Then your hydraulic phase goes to move your roads. Then your moped and your chopper go across. Then there's another hydraulic phase. Then the blue car turns around and comes back to his flag. I'll go ahead and show you how this looks, and then we'll go back and break it down into two pieces so you can more easily see each piece in action. Also, I'm going to turn off stress because I want you to be able to see things moving instead of looking at stress. So what we have here are a bunch of our old friends, the 4-bar linkage. There are, in fact, sort of two sets of 4-bar linkages. There's this set. Oops, well, okay. I guess you'll just have to imagine just the two pieces of steel there, not the cable and the hydraulic. That 4-bar linkage allows this bridge to be pushed up until it's up here. Likewise, this bridge has these pieces of steel that allow it to swing down naturally and come down to here. And I have actually saved these guys in isolation so you can see them in isolation. So let's load up the lower span. Yeah, well, it doesn't really matter. We'll look at the lower span only first. So here is the lower span only, which is this guy. These two 4 bars here lower him down until he is down here. And now let's load up the upper span only, or maybe it'll be easier for you to see lower span only if I do this. So there you go. These 2 bars here allow him to swing down and move to here. And then when it's done, those 2 same bars make him move back up until he locks in here. And again, let's delete this so it doesn't get in the way. Oops, except we're not going to delete that cable. I said we're not going to delete that cable. Thank you. So, that bar and that bar allow this span to move upward until it's up here, and then, again, move back down until it locks in over here. And this hydraulic, of course, is supported by this cable down here because it sort of has to be in a weird place. If we turn on the grid, you can see that this distance from here to here is, I believe it's 2.5 meters, and the maximum that a hydraulic can extend is only 2 meters. So essentially this point here has to be more towards the center where the bridge ends up here in order to successfully push it up far enough, because a hydraulic that just started right here would not be able to make the 2.58 meter distance that guy has to be pushed up. Lastly, if you look in the gallery, you will definitely see more elegant solutions. I did it with sort of long 4 bars, but you can definitely make your 4-bar linkages much, much shorter and more elegant, like as seen here. One of the 4-bar linkages is these 2 ropes. You know, it's clearly possible to make this with more elegant 4-bar linkages that don't take up nearly as much space, but still work just as well. See how easy that is with just ropes? And you can imagine doing the other one with just ropes. I don't think you can, actually, because the other one has to be under compression. I think you get the idea. If you look in the gallery, you will see lots of solutions that are more elegant than mine. And in fact, why don't we'll go look in the gallery so you can see some more elegant solutions, because I do really like the elegant solutions. I made mine work and it's under budget, but I would hardly call it elegant. There's one in particular that only used very short wooden 4 bars. I think it might have been this one that I thought was really good. You can see how elegant that is. He just used a turntable with some wooden triangles. I like this one too. When I first looked at this, I was actually seeing this square in there in my mind's eye, because that was how I was thinking we're going to do it. We're going to have a carousel made of steel. A steel carousel that moves the bridges around backwards and forwards, but eventually I said, nah, I don't really want to do a steel carousel. I'm just going to do 4-bar linkages. Because the steel carousel, you can see, kind of causes the roads to rotate a little bit. I wanted to keep my roads flat the entire time, have a little bit more control at the cost of less elegance. Still, very cool. I love the way that looks, that kind of crimson flower right there. Alright, let's move along. Okay, so the way this works is that this truck drives over here to the checkpoint, and when it hits this checkpoint, the red car actually drives off the bed of the truck and starts backwards. The truck continues on forward to his flag, and when the truck hits the flag, the dune buggy jumps off the back of the truck and heads across. And the dune buggy, so the red car has to get to his flag up here, the dune buggy has to get to his brown or orange flag up here. The first thing that I said was, well, let's just make a bridge for the truck to go all the way across, because it has to anyway. And then we'll just make a little bridge here that just lowers down and allows the red car to get up to his flag, and then we'll figure out what to do with the dune buggy later. And I'll show you that this does work for that purpose, just to allow the red car and the truck, but doesn't allow the dune buggy to get to his flag. And I got this fairly quickly, right? This took me like maybe 10 minutes of building, maybe not even 10 minutes to get to this point. But my engineer sense was already tingling. So 2 things were going on in my head. One was like, I was looking at this and saying, you know, you're having to use a lot of like reinforcement down below here, and you're also, when you should be doing a straight line from here to save money on roads, because the budget is not enormous. It's enough, more than enough to give you what you need, but I just felt like, can't we just make this whole thing one straight line from there to there, and then figure out some way to be more clever with this bridge so that we can get both the red car and the dune buggy through? And so that was how I came up with. Well, first of all, let's do take 2 main span only. So you can see this, in my opinion, is a lot simpler and a lot neater. And there's still the need for, these could be wood if they were short enough, but the distance between here and here is just a little bit too, it's just over 2 meters. So $450 a meter. 2 meters would be 900. You can see that costs 907. The jerk-ass level designer intentionally made this a tiny, tiny bit too short to be done with wood, just to piss you off. So fuck that guy. But I really like the elegance of this. I think it's very well thought out. This is, of course, just the main span. The red car nor the dune buggy can get to their flags. And then to make the little bridge that goes up here, why don't I show you? Here is just your simple tilting bridge, where the bridge just tilts down and locks in here. You can see there's a little bit of a weird dangle right here, and that's because the hydraulics don't necessarily allow you to adjust them with infinite precision. They can only go in certain steps, and the granularity is fairly fine on those steps, but sometimes it's just not enough. You end up having to tweak this last little bit. I was having problems where there was residual stress. The stuff in here was turning orange or red or even breaking just because I couldn't finely enough adjust the hydraulic. Let me show you the bus gets all the way and that the red car works. Then we can talk about curly mode up here. You can see how ridiculously green this is right here. There's absolutely no residual stress from that hydraulic. Okay, but now, what do we do about the dune buggy? We got to get him up here. How do we pull it off? So, curly mode we saw in an earlier bridge where we replaced these top compression supports with hydraulics. And when the hydraulics contract, they actually cause the roads to sort of curl like fingers curling into a fist. The first hydraulic phase lowers the bridge down until it locks here. Then when the truck hits the flag, curly mode happens, and this part of the bridge curls up and makes a perfect ramp for the dune buggy to jump up here and hit his flag. Let me just show you. Nice, right? So yeah, I'm very pleased with that one. That was also a very fun level. I really like the elegance of just using one span and then this bridge serving double duty as both the ramp that gets the red car up and also using curly mode to curl the end of the bridge and allow the dune buggy to jump up to his flag. Very good use of the engineering tools, in my opinion. Very elegant and minimalist. So, 416, I believe that is the last level of World 4, and I think that finishes our tour of World 4. I think I've been recording for almost an hour, and there won't be too much to cut out of this one, so again, this may be a longer episode. Hope you like that, and I hope that you've been staying salty, my friends.